The most important game of the TCU football season is on the road in Provo against the BYU Cougars.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's right, Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. I've been covering TCU athletics for the past 12 years. We're brought to you today by Amazon Fire Stick 4K, Amazon Fire TV 4K. Did you know your Amazon Fire TV can also be an Xbox? I'll tell you more about that later on in the show. TCU baseball hosts Cincinnati starting tonight in a 3-game series. Need to get a couple wins there to keep their hosting chances alive in the NCAA tournament. We'll talk about that in segment 3. Donovan Webb, 4-star safety from the DFW area. He visited TCU last weekend. Stephen Johnson from the 4-Star Telegram spoke with him. But we start today as we conclude our series that we've been doing all week long on the 5 most important games of the TCU football season. Number 5 was North Carolina. You take down Bill Belichick, you get back in the national conversation. Number 4, SMU. You get a win against one of your rivals, a team that went to the playoffs last year. That would be huge. Number 3, Arizona State, the defending Big 12 champions. Number 2, Baylor, your biggest rival and a team that beat you on the road last year. But number 1, the most important game on TCU's schedule is BYU. Because BYU is going to be a very good team. It's on the road in mid-November. And let me tell you something about BYU and their home environments. That's a place where the fans show up. You know, there's a lot of places in college football where if the team's good, people show out, right? Get a couple big games here and there, people are going to be there. But for the most part, it's not consistent. BYU, more than any other school in the Big 12, their fans show up. They're loud, they're rowdy. And if the season goes as it should, like we expect, and I maintain this is a TCU team that should have high expectations. Josh Hoover coming back, a defense returning, some skill players returning. The way they played in the back half of last season, this is a team that should be fighting for a Big 12 championship. If that's the truth, then this game in mid-November is going to mean something. There's going to be some stakes attached here. I thought BYU should have been a playoff team last season. They had some hiccups at the end of the year, but they blow out Colorado in the Alamo Bowl. They had some just outstanding, close wins early in the season. You could tell that was a team that started to believe in one another. And what a turnaround. 2 years ago, Josh Hoover made his first career start against Kalani Sitake and BYU. And we didn't really know a lot about Josh at the time. TCU was, I think, Vegas favorites, but that was just because they were at home. And they won by a huge margin. It was their most complete game of the year. That's not the situation that they'll be walking into this year. This is a BYU team that is very good. They are physical. They are tough. LJ Martin, their running back, coming back after rushing for 700 plus yards last year. Jake Retzlaff, who had an outstanding season at quarterback. He's only going to be better. He's only going to be more improved. A defense that is nasty. A team in the trenches on the O-line and D-line that is going to get after you. If this TCU team is who we think they are, then it's going to be a huge test. And they're going to have to be really good to go in there and compete and possibly win on the road in Provo. Because BYU last season, hear me, follow me, through the first half of TCU's season, they were missing everything that BYU brought to the table. Those losses to UCF and Houston, you saw a team that had a lot of mental mistakes. I'm talking about TCU. You saw a team that didn't have the mental and physical toughness they needed. BYU had that. And early in the year, they were in some close games, and they pulled them out. Pulled off some upsets. Now, later on in the season, to TCU's credit, they got better. They figured some things out, really starting with that game against Utah. They found ways to win. They got Savion Williams going in the running game. That changed their offense. The defense started to figure some things out. Schedule got more manageable. And they closed the season really strong. But this is a game that if they're ready to go and they're the squad we think they are, then we're talking about Big 12 championship implications late in the season in November in what probably is going to be a cold environment. You hope it's a night game against a really good opponent in BYU. There were some other games on the schedule that didn't even make the list, but I had a hard time keeping them off. Colorado, right? And part of that too is like North Carolina, it would be a chance to get in the national landscape because of all the attention that Dion brings. I think Colorado is going to be a solid team again. I don't know if they'll be as good as they have been or as good as they were last year, but they're going to be a good football team. Iowa State, which has figured things out under Matt Campbell. There's some good games on the schedule. But BYU is the one that stands out the most to me. If TCU is actually improved in the areas that they say they're working on, that they say they're going to be better in, then it's going to show up in this ball game. You cannot be a one-dimensional offense against this BYU defense. You have to run the ball. You have to do it well. You can't just be a finesse team against this group. You have to be physical. And there will be some early season tests that give us an indication of who this team is. I talked about Arizona State. I talked about SMU. They go on their road to Kansas State. My goodness, has anyone given TCU more trouble over the past 4 or 5 years than the Kansas State Wildcats? But I picked this game as the most important because of some of the things I said, and also because it's later in the season. This is going to be one of those like, hey, if you want to play in Arlington, you got to find a way to go win on the road. And there's the added bonus. If you talk about national spotlight, being in the college football landscape again, being a part of the conversation, if you're playing BYU late in the season in a game that matters, when we're talking about conference title and playoff implications, that's going to be on the radar of college football on the national stage. So a really good opportunity late in the season for TCU to turn things around. And honestly, 2 years ago, Kalani Sitake and Sonny Dykes sort of felt like they were in similar places. Great people. Everybody wanted it to work. But at the time, it wasn't. Kalani was coming off a season where, they were hovering around 500. Sonny was coming off a year where they were 5-7. And they both turned things around last year. And they want to carry that momentum into this year. So in that ball game in late November, what is Josh Hoover's season looking like? What do we see from Eric McAllister? Can Jordan Dwyer step up and make plays? Who's the main running back for TCU? Has Nate Palmer or Jeremy Payne established themselves as the guys that can get tough yards, that can get downhill, that can make plays? Defensively, you'll have a veteran team that's played 9 ball games together. How are they going to handle a physical BYU offense that wants to run the ball downhill and then use that to get the ball on the outside to their playmakers? There's a great opportunity in front of TCU this year. And there are high expectations and difficult games ahead of them. But if this is the year that they've been building towards, which it is, if this is the team that they've put together around Josh Hoover, to be successful with an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator coming back, having continuity on this roster, having continuity on the coaching staff, then these are the types of games that you have to go win. On the road, in a tough environment, dealing with the elements, dealing with a good football team, and just finding a way to get a victory. And we'll also have a great understanding of, one thing about Sonny that I feel like has been lacking over the first few years of his tenure. He's not somebody who puts together just amazing game plans week to week. I think TCU leans on what they do well, and they have an identity, and they try to build a solid culture and a talented group that can win out by winning individual battles, right? So in a season like this where you have high expectations, can you bank on that? Is that going to carry over week to week? And in games like this, where it's probably pretty evenly matched from a talent standpoint, what's the advantage going to be? How do you figure out what weaknesses to try to hone in on and exploit to be the best team possible? BYU and TCU, late November. That's the most important game of TCU's football season. It needs to have Big 12 championship implications involved with it. And then after that ball game, they close out the year with games against Houston at home, or Houston on the road, and then Cincinnati at home. So depending on what happens with those teams, maybe your last shot to get a really good spotlight resume type win until hopefully you're playing in Arlington in the Big 12 championship game. Well, that's it. Those are the top 5 most important games of TCU season. North Carolina, SMU, Arizona State, Baylor, BYU. And there's other games on this schedule that are really good. I mean, I'm excited about the gauntlet they're going to walk through. West Virginia on the road with a new head coach and Rich Rodriguez. New head coach that's the same as the old head coach a while back. But you know what I mean. Taking over for Neil Brown. Iowa State, BYU, SMU, Colorado. Teams with good defensive lines that are going to be physical, that are going to get after you. How does TCU handle that? That's going to be the story of this season. I've told you before. To me, this, especially on the offensive side of the ball, it all comes down to, can you run the ball more effectively, and how does that balance out your offense? When we come back, a 4-star safety visited TCU over the weekend. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I love my Amazon Fire TV stick. I do. It's upstairs. I can stream anything and everything from my television. It's very convenient. It's really easy to use. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? That's right. It's also an Xbox. You can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No consoles required. You just need to get Xbox Game Pass Unlimited with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. They have the latest technology for elevated playing, endless entertainment. You can watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of the console. Already have a console? A Fire TV Stick 4K is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your or your kids' games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/FireTV Lockdown to get started. Amazon Game Pass Unlimited subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, included Fire TV Stick 4K, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. Your Amazon Fire TV. It's also an Xbox. Check it out today. TCU had a big weekend of official visits. That's TCU football that I'm talking about. And this was last weekend. Had a number of players, a couple offensive linemen that I really like, but one name to know is Donovan Webb. Donovan is a safety. He plays his high school ball at Panther Creek in Frisco. He's a 4-star talent, number 27 ranked safety in the country, and the 46th ranked player in the state of Texas, according to 247 Sports. His offer list is very, very good. He's got offers from Michigan, Ohio State, Baylor, Texas Tech, Texas, SMU, Kansas State, Colorado. You get the picture. This is a guy that's on everybody's radar. He is an outstanding athlete. He also makes things happen on special teams. The first clip on his highlight reel is him taking a punt back to the house for a touchdown. 6 feet tall, 185 pounds. Gabe Brooks from 247 Sports says he's an ultra productive safety with 3-phase playmaking experience. He's a volume tackler with a passing game impact as well. He had consecutive 100 tackle seasons and 9 interceptions across his sophomore and junior campaigns. He's got great athleticism, and as I said earlier, is a threat in the special teams world by also being able to return the ball. He spoke with Steven Johnson from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram and said his visit was outstanding. They got to know the TCU coaching staff, got to know more about the program, which is really good news. He's also going to visit Michigan and Ohio State, I know for sure, and I'm sure there are other official visits lined up. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is going to be tough. This is a dude that is getting recruited by everybody. But I maintain you don't have to win all these battles. But, you know, when Sonny was hired, I've said this before, every coach kind of has the thing that they are most known for or the thing that their program relies on, right? Some coaches are great at winning X's and O's battles. They're strategic people. Some coaches are more on the side of acquiring talent. Some are great at building culture. I think Sonny Dykes is really good at building culture. I feel like once he gets people on campus and in the fold, he's able to retain them. He's able to keep them around. He's able to get them to buy in. But one of the big pulls with him coming over from Dallas was that he was supposed to be recruiting guy. Like, part of the appeal was this is a dude that can acquire top talent. And TCU for a long time, they got talented players, but they also did a really good job of identifying and scouting and finding players who maybe were a little undervalued for one reason or the other and developing them within their system into great talents. Okay. But these are the types of blue chip prospects that TCU is going to have to start landing. And yeah, part of it's NIL. And I don't think TCU can just go bag for bag. I'm talking about money with everybody in every single recruitment battle. But I do think you have to prioritize and say, okay, this is the type of do everything athletic player that we need to make a really big push for. This is also an interesting recruitment story, and I'm going to follow it closely because it's one of the first times that we're going to see Trey Watson, the new safeties coach, who took over for Paul Gonzalez this offseason. Trey coming over from Cal. It's the first time we really get to see him in action from a recruiting standpoint. So we'll get a feel for how does he handle this? How does he attack it? How does he try to relate to players and make sure he's giving them the best information possible so that he can get them in the fold, right? We know that Trey is really good at getting safeties to create turnovers, to make splash plays, and that's something that Donovan Webb can do. He had 9 interceptions over the past 2 seasons. He's got great ball skills. He has the ability to intercept the ball and then take it to the house because of the way he can break tackles and move around and use his speed. So there's a lot to like about him as a player. And it's nice that TCU got the first opportunity to be open with him and talk about, like, okay, what would it look like if you ended up here? But this is a big deal. Donovan Webb, 4-star safety, visiting TCU. A lot of official visits last weekend. We're hitting the summer where we're going to start seeing commits roll in for the 2026 class. Last summer, they did outstanding work on that 2025 class, finding talent, getting guys to commit, getting them signed. Or not signed yet. That happened in December, but you know what I mean. Getting them to commit and move forward in the process. And so over, the next month or so, hopefully we see a few more of those. A big emphasis on edge rushers so far with this 2026 class. When we come back, the best moment of the week for TCU athletics, and TCU baseball kicks off series against Cincinnati. Monarch Money is your all-encompassing. It's a budgeting app, but it's not only that. It's really a wealth management app. And you can use the code LOCKEDONCollege for 50% off your first year. Have you ever checked your bank account and you wonder, where the heck did my money go? That happens all too often for me. Whether it's online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Monarch Money is not just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and start spending in one place, so you can stop managing your money and start building wealth. You can put all the joint accounts in there with your spouse and your partner, so you can both see where you're at and how you're doing. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code is LOCKEDONCollege for half off of your first year. Give Monarch Money a try today. So I'm going to start something new in segment 3 on Fridays, and I'd love to hear from you in the YouTube comments. What was your favorite moment or the best moment of the week related to TCU athletics? And this week it's pretty easy because there was no midweek TCU baseball game. And so the best moment of the week for TCU athletics was beach volleyball winning a national title. And I saw the bookstore or TCU athletics page, one of the two, dropped like the official national championship merch. So get your hands on that if you haven't, because it's a big deal, man. Anytime TCU wins a national title in something, that's something to celebrate. First team not named USC or UCLA to pull that off and get it done. Really great moment for that program. TCU men's tennis, they take on UCF in what is basically the Sweet 16, the super regionals of the NCAA tennis tournament. And that's going to happen at noon on Saturday in Fort Worth. And then if they win that, they'll move on to the Final 8, which will start on May 15th. And that's the NCAA D1 Men's Tennis Championships. And those are actually happening in Waco at Baylor's Tennis Center this year. So big time moves coming up for TCU tennis as they try to defend their national title and get back to the national championship Final 8 if they can take down UCF, a team that beat them in the Big 12 tournament just a few weeks ago. TCU baseball series against Cincinnati this weekend. Game at 6 o'clock on Friday tonight, 2 o'clock on Saturday, 1 p.m. on Sunday. Just 2 Big 12 series left before postseason play starts. D1 baseball put out their latest Field of 64 projection, and the Frogs were a 2 seed in the Eugene Regional against, they'd be playing Oregon in that scenario, or Oregon would be the host team, I guess I should say. So back on the 2 seed line for now, at least according to those projections. TCU needs to finish strong in these final 6 games. They get Cincinnati, and then they go on the road against Utah before playing in the Big 12 tournament. Cincinnati's a red-hot team. They're coming off a sweep of Kansas. But I like that this series is at home because the Frogs have played really well at home all season long. But check that out. All those games on ESPN Plus, as they pretty much always are with baseball. And it's at home, which means a much better broadcast than what we had last week when they played Arizona on the road. That was a rough scene from that ESPN Plus broadcast. Yesterday's episode, I talked about the Baylor TCU game being one of the most important games of TCU season. Big Easy said TCU versus Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game. Book it. I could see it. Tech spending a lot of money. They were very aggressive in the transfer portal, and they've got a pretty manageable schedule. So that, I don't really care who they play as long as TCU's there, but that would be a lot of fun, man. Could you imagine? That would be a packed house. TCU and Tech at AT&T Stadium in the Big 12 championship game. That would be something else. And Justin said, do not call it that when I called it the Bluebonnet Battle. Baylor should be ashamed of that trophy. It's the Revivalry. That's right, the Revivalry. That's a much better name, and I don't really know why. I get conflicting reports as to why it wasn't called that and why it ended up being billed the Bluebonnet Battle, but I also don't like that name. Is what it is, though. I do think that that's the best rivalry in the new Big 12, though. I firmly believe that. And I know BYU Utah would argue it, and I get it. But Baylor TCU is a great rivalry. And I think if those teams can stay at the forefront of the conversation, we talk about, being teams that can play for a championship, that's only going to help intensify a game that already has a lot of juice behind it. We'll be back on Monday, recap everything over the weekend. Thank you for listening to the show. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're getting close to 1,500 subscribers. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms.